Debbie said something kind of funny to me last week when we were getting ready for today. She said that multiple people had thought of me for this panel, which is quite the backhanded compliment if you think about it. But I'll take it in the positive spirit in which I hope it was intended and say that I've certainly failed a lot, and I'm very comfortable talking about it. So, you know, it all sort of started for me 6 years ago, and this particular journey of failure with Innovation Africa, when I met the founder of this organization, Sivan Yaari. And at the time, we didn't have 501c3 status, we had no money, but we had an idea. And the idea was that we were going to bring Israeli innovation to Africa. And we decided to start with electricity, because we saw this image of Africa at night. There are 585 million sub-Saharan Africans living without electricity for their most basic needs. Meaning that if you're a mother going to give birth in a rural medical clinic, you're giving birth by the light of candles and kerosene lamps. And there are no refrigerators in which to store medicines and vaccines. And Israel has solar energy. They have the potential to help. And so we thought, wow, this is really natural. Well, you know, we're going to power a rural medical clinic in Tanzania with solar panels from Israel. And so we got our first donation in May of 2008, and we paid a local contractor in Tanzania, and we had it all set up, and we decided we were going to go visit it. And so this is September of 2008, a couple of months after we'd gotten the funding for our first project. And you won't see me in any of the photos today. We're typical nonprofit, low budget. I was the photographer. So we're in the field, and you know, Sivan is on the left, and our contractor, Leonce, is on the right. And in the middle is our biggest prospective major donor, Stephen Ackerman, who was basically trying to vet us and see if we were worth investing in. And so, you know, we're driving. There are Maasai warriors, cattle crossing the street. We're driving for hours. We get to the medical clinic, and we are so excited to see the solar panels on the roof of Kitagozero medical clinic in this rural community. And we see the panels, and we're so excited, and we walk inside, and we see a light on, and the clinic officer is opening up the refrigerator that's supposed to be full of medicines and vaccines, and we walk in, and it's this glorious moment, and here are the contents of the refrigerator. And this was just gut-wrenching. I mean, really, like, one of those moments. And we stood there, and it was so painful. And I think really it was for 3 reasons. The first is because this is just a huge failure. I mean, this is a device that could be used to literally save lives. It should be full of medicines and vaccines that are going to save women and children and families, and it has soft drinks in it. Second of all, our biggest prospective donor is standing right there. There's no hiding this. And third was really the personal one, because I had worked in the developing world before. I'd actually worked as a journalist covering nonprofits that were failing. And so I had sworn to myself I would never be with an organization like this. You know, I wanted to be part of the solution. We all kind of get into this game saying, I want to do it better. I've seen other people do it badly, and I want to improve upon what's out there. And then when you have a moment like this, you realize, oh God, I am just like everybody else, maybe even worse. And so what do you do in that moment? So we had a Coke. We realized we could yell and scream and point fingers and lay blame. But we realized that the failure was really on us. And so how were we going to move forward? And we sat down and we talked to the doctor, Joseph Nagamila, who's a phenomenal man, and we asked him about the challenges he faces in a rural medical clinic. And we started talking to the nurse, Shura, and the patients that were coming in. And we realized we'd actually never talked to these people before. We hadn't asked them what they needed, what they were interested in. And so we started asking ourselves, what actually went wrong? What did we do wrong? We realized that we were trying to do community development, but we hadn't actually talked to the community, right? We put in a refrigerator, but did the doctor know how to go about getting medicines and vaccines? Did the government know that the refrigerator was there to then deliver the vaccines? Did the mothers in the community know that that was going to be available so they'd actually bring in their children to get the vaccines? We realized that we actually needed to bring the community together, and so we started building solar committees that have local tribal leaders, village elders, local government officials, heads of local women's groups, clinic staff. We realized we needed to bring together this committee and work with them for months before completing any solar installation. we thought that all we were doing was working on technology, but what we really realized is that this was a community solution and we needed to involve them in it. And so because of that, we realized that we needed to start thinking about all of our projects as opportunities to fail. Because something that the tech world understands, but that we didn't, is that prototyping and beta testing and iterations in multiple generations of products are important. This project taught us something essential. And so what if we could approach every new project with that same perspective? What if we were looking for the failures, excited for the failures? And so we realized that we had these systems with all these moving parts in them. We were installing panels and light bulbs and batteries. We realized that, 6 months in, light bulbs would need replacing. 3 years in, batteries would need replacing. And so we realized that, again, we'd failed. We didn't think 3 years down the line. So we worked with the solar committees, and we actually started setting up micro businesses where, we would use the solar energy at our facilities to charge phones. People would pay to charge their phones, and then that money would go back into maintaining the system. We also started working with remote monitoring systems from Israel that would help us check on the systems remotely, again, because we realized that our projects could break down and we wouldn't know. And so if we could get data from the field, like these graphs that we can now see for each of our solar projects, we could prevent failure of our systems. So basically, what's happened since? We went back to this medical clinic in Tanzania, and you can see we're all anxiously looking at the refrigerating in Kilimanjaro, and thankfully it was full of medicines and vaccines. And what we did is we actually replicated this project. We now have over 25 medical clinics, and we've issued more than 300,000 medicines and vaccines from these solar refrigerators because we figured it out by failing. And we looked at every project in the same way with an opportunity to learn. Now, to date, we've completed 68 different solar projects, solar schools, and medical clinics and water pumping systems that serve over 478,000 people. And what's more is that we were just given an award at the UN for our creative thinking in terms of innovation and monitoring and sustainability, because we talk about this failure. We don't just sort of keep it inside. And Ashley, I'm so glad that you've had these conversations with Engineers Without Borders. A lot of us in the international development space need to get really comfortable sharing this and talking about solutions instead of sweeping it under the table. And so we were just acknowledged for this, and that's incredibly exciting. But in terms of the fundraising, because a lot of us have actually hit upon this point, we're scared of our funders. And so this transparency, having a solar committee, having those graphs where we can see the productivity of our solar panels, has actually allowed us to become better fundraisers. We have bar and bat mitzvah kids who can now call the head of the solar committee and say, hey, what's going on at my project? And we have synagogues like Ikar and schools around the country that can then have sister partners in Uganda and Tanzania and Malawi. And that initial donor who was with us, right when that failure happened, we thought we were never going to see him again. We thought we would never get another penny. But actually, he's become one of our biggest funders. He sponsored our office. This is our big unveiling. And the reason is because he saw where we came from and he saw how committed we were to fixing it. So really, I think that for us, the greatest gift we've ever had was just failing fast, right at the beginning, and understanding that we have to acknowledge it. Failure has created a culture in our organization in which no one is afraid to say, I'm messed up, or this isn't going well. We don't ask people to present on just what they've accomplished, what they've succeeded at. We ask them to tell us what they're struggling with. And because of that, they're more invested in the final product. And so we're lucky we have a very young team of people who are all very comfortable saying, my bad. And they then rise to the challenge, and we're that much more likely to succeed. So thank you all so much. This has been so much fun. And thanks for doing this.